What's up, my beautiful people? It's AV, and I'm back again with part 3 of drawing Madi. This is my new series, Pencils to Paint. First off, I want to talk a little bit about why I decided to walk you through the techniques behind the pencil element of my process. I've been getting several requests on what I use, the tools that I use, and the sort of concept behind using pencils first, then watercolor, and then inking. Well, in fact, this time I'm considering inking first and then using watercolors or maybe even markers. I've been using a lot of Ahuhu markers and shuttle art markers, just 3 or 4 different alcohol-based markers, and I think I will combine watercolor paints, colored pencil, as well as alcohol-based markers this time. So it'll be a full mixed media art piece. But for now, I just sort of want to talk about getting the angles correct on her hands. Typically, what I do is I measure out everything based on the position of her eyes and nose and mouth. Right here, I'm drawing the jewelry, and always want to bring the hands and the jewelry to the forefront, especially if it's juxtaposed next to the face, just so you get the proper perspective. Typically, my signature style is to exaggerate the size and the perspective in the hands, just simply because I like drawing larger hands. It's something that I'm very much influenced by John Biggers and Charles White, 2 prominent African-American artists. If you want to look them up, I'll put links below in probably websites that have more information about who they are. But I really like to draw the contour of the hands. I think hands are beautiful, although very difficult to draw. So I typically like to exaggerate hands. And hair is, there's so many different ways to draw hair, but I like to break down hair in its most simplest forms. And so I will usually just do shapes when I'm talking about the hair. But back to the jewelry. She has an abundance of jewelry, which is in fact one of the reasons why I chose this person to draw, because they had such beautiful bracelets. And again, hands are difficult to draw, but I find that if you break them down into their most basic elements, which are just shapes, you'll have an easier time rather than thinking of them as lines or thinking of them as actual fingers, just breaking them to squares and spheres. So you want to use the joints and the tips of the finger and the breaking or bending points of the fingers to sort of tell you where you are in space when you're drawing the hands. Again, I usually use rectangles, squares, and spheres to decide how the hands could go, and the perspective point typically starts from the tip of the nose, and I'll draw imaginary lines to get the placement correct when I'm drawing joints and fingers, especially in alignment with the face. But like I said, I draw them in chunks and spheres and rectangles, and I stop thinking of them in terms of actual hands, but just in terms of shapes. And of course, all the detailed elements can be added later, like shading or the lines in the joints where the hands and the fingers fold over, because you have different layers of skin or different patches of skin. As our hands go from the palm to the front facing portion, the skin is typically different. You have a slicker texture in the palm of the hand, and when you roll over to the front of the hand, the skin generally shows wear and tear. So all those detailed elements can be added in later, and usually I'll reserve that for the color portion or the watercolor or alcohol-based markers that I'm going to use. You don't want to add in too many of those elements, just simply because they're going to be covered over with whichever media you choose to use. And again, you want to make sure that you are proportioning, or you're deciding on the perspective just based on the size of your face. If you put your own hand next to your own face, that'll give you a good idea of the proportionality that you should use when you're drawing heads and hands. And again, I don't want to bore you too much with talking over the video too much and rambling on. But again, if you have questions, please leave the questions in the comment section below. And as I move on to doing the hair a little bit later, just really loosely sketching in the hair and adding in the details later. Again, just thinking of the hair as shapes and not as actual individual hair follicles until I add in detail later. Again, thank you for watching. Enjoy the video. Please remember to like, comment, and share. And please share. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, so share this wherever you view your social media. Share it to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I appreciate you watching. Subscribe. Encourage your friends and family to subscribe. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next video.